guess the intermission's over, and I've been asked to appear here. If I would have known I could have Skyped this in, I could have stayed home and saved myself a trip up the street. But lesson learned. My name's Stuart, but to save myself embarrassment and my parents, I call myself S2K when I come out and interact with people. Initially, I was given the opportunity to do this, and since the scope of what you could do was so large, I had a hard time trying to pinpoint one thing to do. I like the fact that this dealt with old and new news and how to think about them and whatever else. So I started to make some films. I found a bag of newspapers, clippings from the early 1900s, a long time ago. And somebody had cut out poems from these old papers. And I started to film these old news clippings. And I liked it. And then I took some magazines that I found that came with the Philadelphia Inquirer in 1939. And they were supplemental color magazines that dealt with what at the time was a world war. But they also had advertisements for lingerie and dishwashing soap. And I thought it was really interesting, and I filmed some of those. And then I took some old music magazines from the early 1980s that I got in England. And they had articles and pictures and what records were out then and stuff like that. And I filmed those. And then I looked at all the films and I figured, man, it's going to take me a lot longer time to put this together than I actually have. So I kind of shelved all that. Hey, it's the truth, you know, what can I say? I was thinking about news and my first experiences with it. And I have a definite, well, not I don't know how old I was, but I know where I was. It was like between the first and third grade. I was at home with my mother, and she was in the kitchen listening to the radio. And I was playing in like an adjacent room. And I heard a man's voice say that there were guerrillas that were fighting the armies on the plains of Africa. And I thought that there were real guerrillas fighting a real army on real plains in Africa. And I thought that's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. I later learned out that the guerrillas were like a militant army and they were fighting against the government on the field somewhere in Africa. And since that time, the news has been a part of my life. Currently, in 2008, I stopped watching the news. I stopped reading newspapers. I stopped picking up weekly circulars. I stopped watching internet news. I tried to avoid news and television and the media as much as possible because I found out that for me personally, it allows me to think of things that I otherwise wouldn't have the freedom or time to think about because I'd be thinking about nonsense, about what movies are coming out, about what movie stars are doing, about what this guy said to this guy, and how that guy responded to that guy. And all these things that are on TV. And it just, I don't need any of that. I don't need to be thinking about those things in my off time. So I've cut out news. And therefore, I'm not really up to speed on what's going on nowadays. So I didn't make the films. I didn't really prepare anything. But I thought I would like to do something just to see what happens and try to use news in some format. So I'm going to try to do that. I don't know if I should try to explain what I'm doing, but there's got to be some news on the radio. You know, you think there would be news on the radio, but maybe being inside this building has some kind of effect on it. I'm not really too sure at this present time. But that's not going to stop me. Because what I want to see if I can do is find some news and then interrupt it. Oh, that could be a reason. Well, the film would have been nice. It isn't exactly news, but it's something that's coming through the radio. You can't always get news on the radio. Sometimes, you know, it's just not there.
You really want news?
I'm sorry?
You really want news?
Do I really want news? No. I was hoping that there was some there on the thing, because that's kind of cool. What I'm still trying to do now is interrupt news. Which isn't real good.
Devout Muslim rafts plunging over the falls, into the narrow cave. There's the light at the end of the tunnel. Actually, it's the headlight of the train coming out of the tunnel. You finish the ride, you're exhausted, you're wet, you're happy, you're ready for more. That's all wonderful, Miss Fletcher, but what about the treadmill and petting zoo?
Well, you see, the petting zoo was part of the whole redevelopment boom in Cuyahoga Falls.
That's it.
New hotels were going up. And then we built the new Cuyahoga Falls International Airport, you see. Yes. Oh, and there's a brand new NASCAR motor speedway that just opened up. Oh, and African wildlife park. Very popular. And then there's the Cuyahoga Crossover Museum.
A crossover museum?
Oh yes, you see the Rock and Roll Museum in Cleveland has been so successful.
Yes, I've heard that.
So we had a museum devoted to crossover music. Or like this, for instance, this early Elvis recording.
I didn't make, about plans that didn't come through. And so what I actually did was I threw all this stuff in my backyard before I came out here today. And I got it to work like it was supposed to. And right now, things aren't working like they're supposed to. And I don't think that's too bad of a thing, because sometimes things don't always work the way you'd like them to. What I hoped to do here was I can tune-in radios and using just like a transmitter, interrupt those signals and have drums and keyboards and vocals, whatever you want, at the same time that you can hear these voices talking. I was doing it in my backyard, and I was having a blast. And I threw everything in the bag, and I brought it out here to see if I could do it again. I probably could do it. Somewhere in this table of stuff, there's a misconnection. But that seems pointless to try to sit here and fumble around to try to get something to happen that maybe won't. And that's okay with me, because I've been able to come here and at least hold your attention for a couple minutes. I didn't get to do what I wanted. I didn't really get to say what I wanted. I didn't get to show what I wanted. And I don't know, I'm not really too disappointed. I am disappointed, but I'm not too severely disappointed in myself. And I'd like to close this up and just say that when it comes to news, the only news that I want to hear is the news that my friends tell me. I don't need to get my news from radios or televisions or newspapers or anything like that. Somebody coming up to me and telling me that they had a good day, or that their sister got married, or that their cousin just had a little baby girl. That's news. That's good news. That's the news I want to hear. I don't need to hear about any of that other stuff because it doesn't involve me. It doesn't involve my friends. And if it does,